story tonight. Immediately, Pakistan's charades are blown by the ICJ at the world stage as the International Court of Justice delivers a verdict in India's favor. ICJ clearly stating that India's claims in the case are plausible, as ICJ has jurisdiction on the Vienna Convention and India's rights to seek consular access are plausible. The court also stays Jadhav's death sentence till the final decision is taken. Right, let's now listen into the man who spearheaded the Indian team at the International Court of Justice, Dr. Deepak Mittal, the face of Indian team at the ICJ. Here he is speaking exclusively to my colleague Ashish Singh. Listen in.
There you see some of the members of the team who made it possible. Dr. Mittal, a huge victory of India over Pakistan in the ICJ.
Well, it's a sense of relief and satisfaction, I must say. And we are very thankful to the court that they have given this decision today and given an order on provisional measures and held on the prima facie case exists of the violation of the Vienna Convention, and have by doing so, I think they have given a lot of relief to the family and the parents, especially of Mr. Jadhav back home.
Yes.
And we also, I would also put on record the great spirited effort and the arguments which Mr. Harish Salve, our counsel for India, has really put in, and very argued our case. And
so I'll not ask you the further strategy, but certainly with this order and provisional measure has made India's case much stronger for the further hearing. This is something that legally will strong much.
The most vulnerable. Extremism is not due to any religion or ideology. It is a mindset where passions have given way to hate and intolerance of others. Our challenges are very real, but there are positive sides to the picture as well. Not only have we survived the worst onslaught of terrorism in modern history, we have reversed the tide. In fact, security has now achieved conditions to help development to take place. Despite insensate propaganda, the fact is, as a nation, Pakistan has rejected terrorism. That speaks of the robustness of our social and religious values, and I have no doubt that we equally reject extremism in all its manifestations.
Right, we've just heard the Pakistan reaction. Pakistan obviously not taking it well. The fact is that the ICJ has ruled against Pakistan, staying the execution of Indian national Kulbushan Jhadav by the Pakistan military court until further notice. Not only was it a unanimous decision, but it was also said by the ICJ that prima facie the Vienna Convention will apply in Kulbushan Jadhav's case. So Pakistan basically cannot execute Kulbushan in a final decision on India's charge that Pakistan violated its obligations under an international treaty guaranteeing diplomatic help to foreigners accused of capital crimes. Remember, the 150-day period for clemency given by Pakistan ends in August, but that also suggests that execution can happen immediately thereafter. Thus, the decision to stay the execution pending the ICJ hearings is unanimous. The ICJ further said that the circumstances of Jadhav's arrest remains disputed, and the fact that Pakistan has neither given any assurance that Jadhav won't be executed till its verdict makes it even more difficult for Pakistan. Right, joining me immediately at the top of this bulletin, Ashok Sajjanar, former diplomat, joining me in the Noida studios. Also, GVL Narasimha Rao, national spokesperson of the BJP. Let me go to you first, GVL. I'm sure you're tired by now of giving initial reactions, but the fact that the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, said that the circumstances of Jadhav's arrest remains disputed, that's number one. And the fact that Pakistan has not given any assurance that Jadhav won't be executed till its verdict makes it even more difficult for Pakistan at this point of time. Don't you think so?
No, certainly. I think the unanimous judgment of the order of the court today is a huge vindication of India's stance, and our concerns have been understood, appreciated by the ICJ, and Pakistan's submissions have been completely rejected and rebuffed. So certainly it's as an interim relief, interim measure, what the court ordered today is a very unequivocal, and it really is binding on Pakistan. Even the language of the court order really makes it incumbent upon Pakistan to not only differ carrying out the conviction given by the court-martial in Pakistan until a final decision is made by the ICJ. It has also mandated Pakistan, rather, to submit, to give an undertaking and to submit the nature of measures that Pakistan is taking to implement the orders of the ICJ. So I think on an international stage, this is certainly a huge slap in the face of, I would say, Pakistan, and certainly it cannot simply by not agreeing to really implement. We're hearing some voices like this. Pakistan is only making its position even more worse and untenable. Today, having argued before the ICJ, having made its submissions before the court, which have been completely rejected by Pakistan. Today, Pakistan completely remains completely shattered. Actually, their legal position, their legal tenability has been completely shattered, and Pakistan is in the eye of a storm, and can only come out of it by acceding to the orders of the court, and also by making sure the conviction does not the conviction is not implemented, the execution is not carried forward, and also the consular access is given at its own initiative, and complete relief is given, and submissions are given to the ICJ accordingly.
Right. Ashok Sajjanar, let me bring you into this before I go across to our other guests, General Rakesh Sharma and also Jabbar Chaudhry. You know, at the outset, before we go into the specifications of what exactly is happening and what are we looking at, and should we at all be very, very hopeful considering Pakistan's previous track record? But, you know, a very generic question, you know, coming from the point that those in the Secret Service are more often than not, perhaps by a rule, and there is no exception as far as this seems, abandoned to the torturer's custody. However, there seems to be a big exception, and India is making it very, very clear that we will certainly leave no stone unturned in trying to get him back, Kulbushan Jadhav getting back.
No, absolutely. You see, what you have mentioned, of course, is a very valid observation. But in addition to that, you know, those who are in the business of spying and going across in camouflage and without being detected to other countries, you know, they never ever travel on their own country's valid passports.
Exactly.
And here, you know, what Pakistan has been trying to tell us is that, you know, he was traveling on a valid, genuine passport. Of course, they have not shared that passport with us so that, you know, we could have made some comment, nor have they allowed us access to the to Kulbushan Jadhav. So, you know, we could have found out what were the circumstances, where was he arrested from.
Exactly.
We maintain that he was arrested from Chabahar, and they maintain that he was arrested from Balochistan. But of course, in addition to us, there are other voices, there are other commentators and analysts who have also said that, you know, it was not Balochistan, but, you know, he's been carrying on normal, regular, legal business in Chabahar for the last several years.
Right.
So, you know, he was arrested from there. But I think what, rather than trying to hide behind such excuses, you know, I think your viewers must have seen the sort of press release that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan has come up with, and where they have maintained that, you know, status quo will be maintained. This is, you know, this is trying to delude themselves and, you know, sort of put cover over the eyes of their own people and of the international community. But I don't think this is going to succeed, because we, of course, need to take satisfaction in the fact that this has been an emphatic victory for us. Emphatic. And this has been a comprehensive defeat for Pakistan, because not one of the arguments that were made by them were found to have any merit or were sustained by the International Court of Justice. You know what Ronny Abraham said about the applicability of the Vienna Convention, about the urgency of the case, about providing consular access to India, to Kulbushan Jadhav. I think in all these cases, they found great merit and they found great value in what Mr. Harish Salve had argued.
Absolutely.
And I think his argument was precise, it was incisive, it was a robust defense.
Right.
While Mr. Khawar Qureshi, you could see that, he was, he wasn't, I think, convinced himself of his case, let alone,
He wasn't
convincing the
convinced of
others
his own argument
of
as
his
he
own
set out the,
arguments. Absolutely.
Yeah, he set out the case. General Rakesh Sharma, on the other hand, unbiased observer would perhaps say that looking at the way the entire proceedings have been conducted in Pakistan, and more often than not, we actually do not hold ourselves back from calling it a kangaroo court or a banana republic. But the fact is that in a certain way, the way Jadhav's prosecution was set up looked like a campaign by the military to destabilize whatsoever efforts Nawaz Sharif was making, trying to get relations with India back on track. However, having said that, having seen the proceedings of the ICJ in which they have slammed Pakistan, it's a big, big moral victory and of course a great legal victory for India. Are you fearing any sort of mischievous agenda being played out by the Pakistan military at this point of time? We are very hopeful. We are saying relief for Jadhav. We haven't seen him yet now. We have no documentation of whether or not he's alive or not. Are you fearing anything from the Pakistan military?
It's a day for great elation for us in the judgment that has come out, and we were expecting it in this form because our arguments were solid, based on merit, based on legalities, and they were well argued. On the contrary, the Pakistan argument were on shallow ground. The judgment comes out and gives a great amount of satisfaction on many other reasons. One is, there was no ambiguity. A number of times it is said that the ICJ comes out with recommendatory kind of judgments in which they will recommend both sides to bilaterally decide. Here there was a categoric judgment. The ICJ actually came out with clarity on all aspects of jurisdiction, on all aspects of urgency, and answered it in a manner that it actually suits us the best. So one part of the story is that now the people say it's not binding in nature. I thought the judgment was absolutely stated in a binding form.
Yeah.
Now, what the Pakistan Foreign Ministry has come out with a statement saying that it's not binding and they say it is status quo, I think they are clutching on straws for the domestic audience. Because the domestic audience has been built over a period of a year and a half into one manner, saying that this is one man of Indian origin caught and proves our complicity in Balochistan. So they are now to go back and have a flag on their face within their own country. So they are working to show that no, we have not lost the case and there is status quo here.
Very unremarkably, if I might add, that there has been some sort of a nationalistic agenda as far as the Pakistan media is also concerned, because over the last, as you rightly said, 12, 14 or 16 or maybe 18 months, even media people, media persons who are not even related in covering this issue, I've seen them on Twitter posting pictures and making such unnecessary comments. But GVL, on the other hand, the important thing to remember as far as takeaways are concerned is that The Hague not only has rejected Pakistan's claim that the Vienna Convention does not apply to the alleged spy or the terrorist, but there are no such exceptions to the treaty, basically shooting down Pakistan's contention that the 2008 agreement between the two countries overrides the conventions. What do you expect now? Do you suspect some things to go wrong, because they could even go wrong, because no one, for the matter, knows on the record who is in charge in Pakistan? Is it Nawaz Sharif? Is it Bajwa? Is it the ISI? No, one doesn't know what's going to happen next.
Sanjeev, but when you have a categorical order and a judgment from the ICJ, and under very specific assertion that there has to be a specific undertaking that no execution of Mr. Jadhav will not happen until a final decision is made by the ICJ. It does not matter what is the power play, internal power play in Pakistan. As far as the world is concerned, it is the government of Pakistan, whoever may be in charge of it. I think if they flout the rules of international conventions, I think they can only, Pakistan every time tries to really reach out to the world audience, reaches out to the various global capitals, trying to really find someone to hear their voice. I think if they really they will become a pariah state. If they refuse to really even implement the order in relation to one Indian citizen for whom actually Pakistan has not shown even the basic human courtesies. I think they have not really, they very well know, jolly well know that what they have done in the case of Mr. Jadhav is certainly does not really find any acceptability in any part of the world. So today, I think Pakistan has a choice to make. Do we want to become further a pariah state? And do you want the world to really further isolate Pakistan? Because so far Pakistan had lived in this impression that their weight, their voice is heard in at least certain global capitals of the world. I think Article 94 of the UN Charter mandates every country, every UN, any country which is a part of the UN to implement the orders of the ICJ. So they have no choice. If they decide not to implement it, they can only do it at its own peril. India will not stop here. Let me tell you, we will further escalate it. If Pakistan does not follow the orders of ICJ and does anything really stupid, if it does something very adventurous, it will only be asking for greater escalation on the international front, and Pakistan cannot afford to do it.
Right. I request my producer to put this up as breaking news. GVL Narasimha Rao, the national spokesperson of the BJP, just saying to us here on NewsX that if Pakistan doesn't adhere by the Hague hearings and the verdict, India will not stop there. India will go all out. India will escalate matters. On the other hand, Ashok Sajjanhar, end of the day, we might claim a moral victory or a legal victory in the courtrooms of the Hague, but you know, this is end of the day, this is geopolitics. How much does it actually count? Because Kulbushan Jhadav, as I said at the beginning of the show, one doesn't know what is his status, whether he's alive, how is his health condition. They haven't given us any facts. Pakistan hasn't given us any proof or evidence whether he's alive or not, whether he's doing well or not. His hands, or rather his life, is still in the hands of the generals or the army who abducted him from Iran.
You raised a large number of questions, you know, in just these 2 or 3 sentences. But, you know, let me try to very briefly answer a few of them. Number one, you said, you know, if Pakistan does not comply with whatever the decision of the International Court of Justice. And, you know, some of the commentators and analysts today on different channels have also said that, you know, all the cases that were in the argument, in the submission that was made by Mr. Harish Salve, he gave the precedent of Paraguay versus USA, Germany versus USA, Mexico versus USA. And in all these cases, the victims, the people who were arrested for whatever crimes, although ICJ said that you should not put them to death, they were put to death by the US courts. So what is there to stop Pakistan? You know, I would like to make 2 submissions in that.
Please.
Number one, we need to recognize that Pakistan is not United States. United States is the, or even at that time, was the preeminent power. That was the time of the unipolar world. So it was really doing anything that it could. Pakistan is not, and I don't think it is. What Pakistan has been doing all these years, at least the last few years, is on borrowed glory, borrowed reflection, first from the United States and now from China. And that is what has made it sort of, you know, with them at the back, it sort of, you know, is behaving in this manner, while on its own, it would definitely have not done that. Secondly, you know, Pakistan has always been maintaining to take India for settlement of the bilateral cases, bilateral disputes, whether Kashmir or other thing, to the international fora.
Correct.
And this, of course, was a very well thought through, considered decision by India to take Pakistan on this case, because we knew that we were not discussing the merits, but we were discussing the procedural legality of the issues. And in that we have been sort of, you know, completely, fully vindicated. So for Pakistan now to come and say that although we have taken the matter of our bilateral ties to a third party, to an international fora, and we are not going to abide by that ruling, I think that is, it will be throwing further mud on its face, so to say.
Right.
So I would imagine that they will feel, and as Mr. GVL Narasimhan said, I think we will take it up proactively, whether it is in different capitals or otherwise, its supporters, its friends and otherwise, to mount international pressure on Pakistan to abide by the directions of the international court.
It's not the state secret anymore. It's very, very clear to everybody. And I know we live in possibly jingoistic and hyper-nationalistic times, but the fact of the matter is that every citizen in India today is aware that the government is actually batting on the front foot when it comes to this issue of bringing back Kulbushan Jadhav, and there are no two ways of saying this particular story. But before I get back to GVL and General Rakesh Sharma, I believe I'm also joined by Jabbar Chaudhry, senior journalist on Skype from Pakistan. Mr. Chaudhry, good evening from India. This is Sanjeev here from NewsX. Your first comments, the Pakistan defense has been shattered, number one. Number two, the ICJ ruling against Pakistan, going against Pakistan, staying the execution of Kulbushan Jadhav by the military court until further notice. What is the initial reaction of the Pakistani establishment? I'm sure it's not a bunch of happy faces, is it, Mr. Chaudhry?
Very good.
Yes, I can't hear you.
Mr. Chaudhry, I believe there is a problem with the audio of Mr. Chaudhry. But we'll wait for that audio to get fixed. All right. Yeah, we'll try and fix that audio problem with Jabbar Chaudhry. But before that, General Rakesh Sharma, coming back again to the same point. Yes, geopolitics, comparative powers or stature of countries. Pakistan is a state in turmoil, in disarray. There are a number of choices, adjectives people can use for it. But the fact of the matter is, Pakistan can very well turn away, not just even look at United States, the example of 2008, but also say that, like it or not, domestic law prevails over the ICJ ruling. We cannot help it. Will they be doing this right now? Because the amount of flack they've received, not only from India, but from the international community, in front of everybody, live television has exposed their lies. So are they going to even consider, thinking that domestic law will prevail over what the ICJ has ruled?
Let me put it this way, we can't rule it out what you're saying. Finally, the writ of the army runs in Pakistan. It's not the writ of the democratic elected government. Now, the fact of the matter is that they had a court-martial done. The court-martial has an appellate court, which is also under the chief of army staff, and the clemency goes to president. If everything was a sham, if the whole procedure was a sham, and the whole evidence that they have concocted was all wrong, then they can't allow us to have consular access. The world will come to know the truth. They would have to hide the truth from the world by not denying us the consular access. The only way out to get out of this is to say, okay, sorry, and we have executed them. So the possibility cannot be written off. We have to get on with the pressure. If they asked us some questions in the month of January, we might as well respond as soon as possible to the questions that they have asked and in the matters to it, because it should not come in the month of August saying that, look, we asked questions in January and the India has not responded for 6 months altogether on the issues raised matters.
Respond on what? We've asked them for consular access 16 times and yet they say that we have not responded.
So the fact is that...
Who wrote the script for Kawar Qureshi?
Very good question.
Who wrote the script for Kawar Qureshi?
He's a QC.
All right, I'm sure GVL, finally I get GVL to smile hearing this question, but I'll come back to you gentlemen in just a bit. Let's listen in now to a face-off bite, as we are calling it, between Pakistan and the ICJ judge on Jadhav. Let's listen in and we come back quickly.
He will touch upon the reasons why the court should not otherwise exercise any jurisdiction or entertain any aspect of India's engagement of its jurisdiction.
Article 1 of the optional protocol provides that the court has jurisdiction over, I quote, disputes arising out of the interpretation or application of the Convention, Vienna Convention.
The jurisdiction under the Vienna Convention of 1963 is not as untrammeled as my learned friend has suggested. It is limited, and indeed it is further limited and qualified or supplemented by the 2008 agreement.
The acts alleged by India are capable of falling within the scope of Article 36 paragraph 1 of the Vienna Convention, which, inter alia, guarantees the right of the sending state to communicate with and have access to its nationals.
It's clear from the Vienna Convention itself that there are provisions beyond Article 36 that need to be considered before coming to the court with the bold assertion that the Vienna Convention is an interrelated regime.
The court considers that the alleged failure by Pakistan to provide the requisite consular notifications with regard to the arrest and detention of Mr. Jadhav, as well as the alleged failure to allow communication and provide access to him, appear to be capable of falling within the scope of the Vienna Convention ratione materiali.
The Government of India and the Government of Pakistan, desirous of furthering the objective of humane treatment of nationals of either country arrested, detained or imprisoned in either country, have agreed to reciprocal consular facilities.
The rights to consular notification and access between a state and its nationals, as well as the obligations of the detaining state to inform without delay the person concerned of his rights with regard to consular assistance and to allow their exercise.
Right, we just heard that face-off between the ICJ judge and, of course, Pakistan Council. A final word to you, GVL Narasimha Rao. Very few governments, India or otherwise, have actually gone out of the way and so blatantly, openly trying to fight so hard for the lives of their citizens. The final word I ask you: are you hopeful that Kulbushan Jadhav will someday return back home to India?
Absolutely, Sanjeev. I think it's because of this hope, it's because of this conviction that the government has really gone to ICJ. It's not just one citizen of India. It's a principle that has to be enforced, and under a rogue country like Pakistan cannot get away not following the multilateral engagements, the Vienna Convention. I think Pakistan was certainly caught by surprise, and Pakistan has now paid a heavy price. Their entire submissions, even before the court, clearly showed that they lacked an argument, they lacked conviction, they lacked preparations. So if they attempt any misadventure now, I think they would again be shamed, they would again be cornered, and they will pay a much more heavier price than what they have done today. So it is in the interest of Pakistan to immediately implement the orders of the court and go back to it and then say what all interim measures they have taken.
Right.
I think any misadventure will land Pakistan in trouble. And however much this judgment may rail them, I think Senior Council should prevail. Otherwise, they will be doing a great harm to their own position in the future.
Well said, GVL Narasimha. That's what the greater narrative every Indian wants to hear, see, watch on live television, whichever way possible. We all want the citizen of India, Kulbushan Jadhav, to return back safely one day, someday sooner rather than later. On that note, GVL Narasimha Rao, Ashok Sajjanar and General Rakesh Sharma, thank you very much for joining us on this show tonight. Just leave you with another thought yet again, which I mentioned right at the top of this show. Those in the Secret Service, basically spies, are by customs abandoned in the torturous custody. India has certainly proved Ian Fleming wrong, at least in the case of Kulbushan Jadhav. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.